I've got a huge announcement to share with you. This is Mike Adams, founder of Health Ranger Store. We are now testing everything for glyphosate. We have, it's been almost 2 years that we've been working on an in-house laboratory glyphosate quantitation method. And the method is so difficult that we ended up having to spend another $500,000 on a different mass spec instrument, a triple quad mass spec, new top-of-the-line system, very, very sensitive. You wouldn't believe the sensitivity. And we had to work with, we tried dozens of different methods, different columns, different chemistry, and even different instruments, of course, and worked with probably 5 or 6 different scientists who had different levels of experience in similar types of methods. And finally, after 2 years, we have confirmed and validated an in-house glyphosate method that we are doing with our own in-house laboratory. So unlike everybody else, frankly, they send their tests out to a lab, and then they trust that that lab is doing the right thing. Well, I don't really trust other labs because I've seen too many cases where they were off by a factor of 10, or they were lazy, they didn't understand the margin of error. I mean, the horror stories that I've heard are pretty outlandish. So I only trust science that we do ourselves, that I'm hands-on. And so I learned, I launched CWC Labs in 2013. So for the last 5 years, I've been hands-on with both inorganic chemistry as well as organic chemistry using mass spec instruments. And the bottom line is, we now have a glyphosate quantitation method, and today I ran, I think it was 20 different store samples of our products to look for glyphosate. And of course, I found 0 glyphosate, confirmed 0. And so we are now certifying our products as being, quote, glyphosate tested and no glyphosate detected, non-detectable glyphosate. So this is a breakthrough because this makes us the first online retailer in the world with an in-house laboratory that can detect glyphosate, and that we manufacture, we retail products to consumers like you, and we have our own in-house lab. We're the only organization in the world that's doing this. There's no one else. So you can now rest assured that you've got the cleanest food products at healthrangerstore.com, because this glyphosate testing is being rolled out now across our entire product line. We haven't tested everything yet, but we are getting there rapidly. We can test maybe 20 products a day, something like that, and we've got about 700 different SKUs in our store. Maybe that's about 700. So it's going to take us a few days to get through, or a few weeks to get through everything. But the good news is that we have this method nailed down now. We have the instrumentation. We worked through all the problems, which were significant. If you knew how many nights that I've personally spent in the laboratory, how many holidays, how many weekends that I've spent to become very proficient in running mass spec instruments and doing the math and doing the chemistry and everything else, you'd be astonished. But that's what it takes. This is not an easy thing. In fact, any scientist that you talk to, you tell them, hey, how hard is it to use let's say an ultra high pressure liquid chromatography system with a triple quad mass spec and a reverse phase column known as a helic column, which is sensitive to metal ions, by the way, which screws up everything. How hard is it to test glyphosate, which will only ionize, by the way, in negative mode, and has a very low molecular mass of 168 in negative ionization mode? How hard is it to quant that molecule? And they will look, if they know what they're talking about, they'll look at you and they'll go, that's the hardest thing ever. That's the hardest thing known to analytical science in the food industry. There's nothing more difficult. Like that is the most difficult analyte, as it's called, or compound of interest. There's nothing more difficult in food. That's what they'll tell you if they're honest. It's crazy. It's like most pesticides and herbicides are a breeze compared to this. Like I can test, atrazine all day long. That's easy. It's a no-brainer. Thousands of different chemicals that come out on a C18 column with very clear peaks, easy elution times, retention time, separation, everything. It's no big deal. That's easy. But glyphosate is devious, just like the company that sells it, Monsanto, now Bayer. It's sort of like the molecule mimics the sinister subterfuge of the corporation that sells it. It's a devious little molecule. It moves through everything. You can't even get retention on it with a normal C18 column, as they're called, in chromatography. So your average lab that's running, THC quant for cannabis extracts, and they think that they're really good, wait till they try something like glyphosate. Oh, and also the levels that we're detecting. So we have to be able to detect glyphosate down to 1 part per billion, or in the units that we use in the lab, 1 nanogram per milliliter. Yeah, 1 nanogram per mil. That's 1 part per billion. And it turns out we ran the test, the LOD test, what's called limit of detection tests, on our instrument, and we could actually detect glyphosate below 1 part per billion. So we're in the parts per trillion range now. Well, the thing is, glyphosate is in a lot of foods at 1 to 5 parts per billion. And so if you can't detect that low, then what are you doing? Your instrument doesn't do the job. And I have other instruments in the lab, other mass specs. One of them can detect glyphosate down to, let's say, just below 1 part per million, which is 1,000 times bigger than 1 part per billion. And I knew immediately that wasn't sensitive enough. Like that, 1 part per million, we're not going to see that in most foods. We need to get down to 1,000 times lower. So now we have this ultra-sensitive triple quad mass spec instrument. It's insanely sensitive. I mean, it's insane. It's so sensitive, if you just look at it and think glyphosate, it draws a peak on the screen. And I'm kidding. But it's almost so insane. Like, we're talking about, it can detect picograms of material. I can put like 2 to 3 picograms of glyphosate mass on the column, and the mass spec will see it as it comes out. A picogram, let's see, it's 1/1000th of a nanogram, which is 1/1000th of a microgram, which is 1/1000th of a milligram, which is 1/1000th of a gram. So a picogram is way freaking small, to put it bluntly in non-scientific language. Way freaking small. Or you could just say 10 to the minus 12. How about that? 10 to the minus 12. That's a picogram, I believe. Yeah, let's see. 6 is a million, 9, 12. Yeah, picogram is 10 to the minus 12. So if you know what that means, if you know anything about numbers or mathematics, you know that, like 1 times 10 to the minus 12, that's a freaking small number, and that's what this instrument can see when it's looking at glyphosate. So we're going through our products, and we're not seeing any glyphosate so far. We're going through our raw materials, because we buy mostly organic, non-GMO, right? So we haven't seen any glyphosate yet, but I know we're going to, sooner or later, we're going to encounter some glyphosate. And of course, you may be wondering, am I going to test glyphosate in other people's products? Well, I'll tell you, I am going to go shop at Whole Foods. I'm going to go shop at Whole Foods, because I strongly suspect that some of their organic stuff is not organic. Now, I'm going to let the science tell me whether that's true or not, leave my opinion out of it, but we'll see. I strongly suspect that Whole Foods is not 100% honest about the origin of some of their so-called organic products. But anyway, we'll let the instrument tell us. But I may not get to that till next year. Who knows? I got a lot of work to do on my own stuff. In any case, there's a couple of websites. You can read glyphosate.news. That's one of ours, glyphosate.news. If you can't spell glyphosate, just go to pesticides.news. Covers much the same thing. Or you can read newstarget.com or naturalnews.com. Or if you want to see these the Science Lab website, it's cwclabs.com. My name is Mike Adams. I thank you for all your support. Be sure to purchase our foods at healthrangerstore.com. They are all in the process of being glyphosate tested. They're already, of course, heavy metals tested, microbiology tested, and other tests. So if you want super clean food, support us at healthrangerstore.com. I'm going to keep buying lab equipment. If you keep sending me millions of dollars, I'm going to buy lab equipment with millions of dollars, and we're going to keep testing stuff with insane sensitivity to make sure that we're getting you the cleanest food in the world. That's what I do. That's just, it's like I don't have any fancy clothes. I don't drive a fancy car. I don't live in a fancy house. I have a really nice lab. That's where my priorities are, because I care about clean food. Thank you for your support.
Learn more at healthrangerreport.com.
Thank you for watching. If you want to support our mission, visit us at healthrangerstore.com for the world's largest selection of lab-verified superfood and nutritional products for healthy living. It's at healthrangerstore.com.